The horrific secrets behind the escapes from North Korea shocked anyone who heard it. Welcome back to the Top 10 Mysteries. Surely here, those who have been following my channel for a long time will know some facts about life in this missile country. But today, I will expose an extremely hot aspect, which is the topic of discussion of every country, and it is the source of China's money. The number of 100,000, 300,000 North Koreans who have defected. The cost of a third person is up to 12,000 USD, equal to the average income of a North Korean citizen for 10 years. It is enough to make you wonder, and the number of successful escapes has dropped suddenly, and the cost has increased several times as soon as Kim Jong-un came to power. Why is that? And why did they flee from their homeland? Or do you know the completely opposite hidden corner, the thought of a pink life when these defectors will face new destinations such as Korea and China? What are you waiting for? Let's explore with us. The wave of defection from the homeland itself. Since 1953, 100,000, 300,000 North Koreans have defected. In 2009, the number of people fleeing from North Korea to South Korea peaked at 2,914 after the end of the war, 1950-1953. However, as soon as Kim Jong-un came to power in 2012, from 5,000 defectors during the last 5 years of Kim Jong-il's leadership, only 1,502 North Koreans successfully fled to South Korea, a 44% decrease from 2011. By 2022, this number has dropped to 67 people. One truth is that most of their destinations are Russia or China, especially South Korea, which is home to more than 34,000 defectors from North Korea. In particular, women account for the largest number, coming from 2 provinces on the South Korea-North Korea border, very far from the capital Pyongyang. In addition to the location, part of it is because men often have to go to the army and participate in collective labor, so North Korean women are more comfortable, have a chance to escape. There have even been cases of North Korean soldiers fleeing. In the most recent incident, a North Korean soldier was reportedly fatally shot by his own comrades while trying to escape from a North Korean checkpoint to South Korea through the Inter-Korean Demilitarized Zone. Yes, any North Korean who crosses the border illegally will be shot at the scene or deported again, and will be tortured and imprisoned. So what made them flee their homeland despite such danger? Let's watch item number 2 with me. The source of the wave of defectors from North Korea. The first reason North Koreans fled their country was the terrible famine of the 1990s, which is estimated to have killed between 800,000 and 1.5 million people. More than 10 million people are living in food shortages, and those who have jobs in North Korea earn only $1 to $2 a month. To be precise, 60% of the total population lives below the poverty line. Her husband's salary is military service. The state apparatus is not even enough to buy a bag of rice for 1 month. She has to depend on 70% of women for black market trading. Actually, everywhere there are hungry people, people who are full. However, in a report to the UN General Assembly published in October 2021, before the COVID-19 pandemic, more than 40% of North Koreans were food insecure, many of whom were malnourished. Also in October of that year, in a speech commemorating the 68th anniversary of the signing of the armistice during the Korean War, 1950-1953, leader Kim Jong-un acknowledged that North Korea was facing wartime-like difficulties. In April, Kim Jong-un described the situation in North Korea as the worst in history, even comparing the hardships North Korea was experiencing with the famine in the 1990s. It is estimated that famine in the DPRK killed between 240,000 and 3,500,000 people. The population of the DPRK is about 22 million in the 1990s, peaking in 1997. A defector from North Korea recounted that at that time, there was only corn husk, flour to eat. But when they ate it, they were constipated, and they were even forced to eat lizards, snakes, rats, and even grass. In 2021, North Korea also had to cut the ration of troops for the first time in more than 2 decades. And they don't use the word famine over there, friends. The use of words like famine and hunger has been forbidden because they refer to the failure of the government. Instead, the term March of Hardship became a metaphor for famine after a state propaganda campaign in 1993. Citing such evidence so that you can see that North Korea has not eaten enough recently is true, not fabricated, but to the point of fainting from hunger is not enough. The second is the video of children in white shirts sitting outside in the scorching sun. What do you think they are waiting for? Exactly waiting for the adopter to pick him up. The fact that orphans are abandoned by their parents because they cannot afford to raise them in North Korea is huge. Therefore, many countries also call this child exporting country. Then the number of homeless people here is too many to count, rolling on the streets. More frightening is the forced labor of children when 7 to 8-year-old children have to carry large bags and pick up iron on the street, which looks extremely pitiful. But if they don't do it, they don't have food. And for every 1,000 children born in Tien, 93 children will die. Construction work in this country is also extremely dangerous. Between the floors, there is only a loose rope, and there is no protective equipment for these builders. It's all because the government has issued regulations restricting imports, leading to a shortage of tools. So workers have something to do and be creative. One thing that few countries do again is that North Korea has made military compulsory for 10 years for men, 5-7 years for women, not to mention that there are many things that are lacking. As evidenced by the fact that a female North Korean soldier who defected recounted, she still vividly remembers the smell of sweat of more than 10 people who were rarely bathed and haunted the straw mattresses in a room full of bunk beds at the concrete barracks. They were rarely bathed because there was no hot water. The water was led directly from a stream that flowed down from a ravine through a pipe, sometimes catching frogs and snakes through that pipe. The harsh training program, plus the meager diet, made many soldiers weak. There are female soldiers who don't even see menstruation anymore because of poor eating and a stressful environment. In addition, the offenders are also not allowed to eat state rice, and the food is also because they sell their labor, and it is not even enough. In July 2022 alone, at least 35 prisoners died of starvation in a prison north of Pyongyang. Finally, there is the restriction of entertainment. Specifically, North Korea prohibits people from distributing, viewing, or listening to any South Korean cultural content. Violations can be punished with many years of hard labor if they contain small amounts, and the death penalty for larger quantities. A picture is worth 1,000 words. A public trial held in 2011 in the city of Sinuiju showed 2 16-year-olds arrested for watching South Chosun movies and playing Korean songs on tape recorders. As a result, each person was sentenced to 12 years of labor. To make matters worse, many of the trials are held on the streets, where anyone passing by is attracted and stops to watch. And that is the main purpose of North Korea. Not only humiliating criminals, but also deterring others. Not to mention that people are not even free to travel, like living in a prison without iron fences. So do you wonder what Kim Jong-un did that could cause such a terrible decrease in the number of defectors? Let's go to the following content. The loophole control makes the fugitive surrender. First of all, it must be said that the North Korean demilitarized zone has always been very strictly patrolled with a large number of scattered minefields. There are electric fences, more checkpoints have been set up, professional dogs and old watchtowers are scattered on the border riverbank. They even sent a drone to look for weak spots along the border. A ban on cars and trains at night near the fence was also issued. Then there are guard posts and other military equipment, so very few people can cross this area because they can be shot dead on North Korean soil before they can get to the other side. Defections through the demilitarized zone are usually from the North Korean soldiers who guard them. Second, thanks to mobile phone waves. Accordingly, those who want to flee need to use their phones to contact the group of organizations crossing the border from across the border. You know, in the past, in North Korea, usually only high-ranking officials were allowed to use mobile phones. All of these signals connect to a network provider that Kim controls. Therefore, unauthorized communications can be detected by the North Korean authorities. The leader is said to have set up a task force to travel in jeeps with phone tracking devices to arrest fugitives or plotting to flee. Many locals in border towns are scared. They packed their mobile phones in plastic bags, buried them in the ground, or burned them in the oven. In addition, Kim Yun-young, an adjunct professor at Cheongju University in South Korea, said that the Kim Jong-un regime does a lot of ways to reconcile and manipulate, sometimes even using the families of defectors as hostages. While under the late leader Kim Jong-il, North Korea paid little attention to defectors, calling them traitors. But not long after his son came to power, Pyongyang began trying to lure the fugitives back, pardoning them and promising a comfortable life in exchange for information about other North Koreans living in South Korea. Moreover, North Koreans working abroad are forced to send money back to the government to show their loyalty, becoming a tool to supply North Korea with dollars. A South Korean civic organization estimates that between $200 million and $300 million are sent to North Korea each year. Just think about it. I lost my life, despite the danger, lost the cost of paying the helper to escape, and when I got to the place, I had to send money to the place where I wanted to hide. That way, many people will give up the idea of fleeing. Finally, the key is to be executed by execution. South Korea's Yonhap news agency quoted a source as saying that Kim also ordered the execution with anti-aircraft machine guns for those who could not prevent North Korean citizens from fleeing, and asked North Korean diplomatic missions and restaurants abroad to find all measures to prevent employees from fleeing. As for the ending for defectors, you already know. Brokerage network loses heavily because of North Korea's security. Did you know that in order to escape from your country, the North Koreans have to turn to brokers to help them? Especially since Chairman Kim Jong-un came to power, crossing the border to escape North Korea has become more dangerous and twice as expensive. Specifically, if they want to go to the free land of South Korea, North Koreans must ask the Chinese for help at a cost that can be up to 12,000 USD, equal to the average income of a North Korean worker for 10 years. For example, Kim Yong-hwa, who was in charge of arranging secret hiding places in China for North Koreans, then dressed them in Korean clothes with codes to communicate with people who would help them resettle in Seoul. He also asked defectors to buy new mobile phones or destroy old ones so they wouldn't be hunted down. However, due to Pyongyang's security has risen to a new position, he now has to consider shutting down operations because business has declined by about 20–60% in just 1 year. Even the brokers asked him to pay more because they thought there was a lot of risk for refugees to flee in China. He also said that the number of people who want to be helped has been halved. Now only 40–50 North Koreans contact each month. And maybe in the future, defectors may return to zero because now North Korea has allowed people to use the internet, still uses TikTok. And importantly, the country's economy is going up. Exports soared 104.5% in 2023, led by shoes, hats, and wigs, while imports increased by 71.3%, and North Korea's nominal per capita income in 2023 was about $1,147.56, compared to Japan's low $1,800. Developments of the defection. Friends, usually defectors on the way to Korea, go to China first. They can also infiltrate South Korean diplomatic missions in China to get bailouts. However, China is so close to North Korea that it has deployed a dense security force around the South Korean embassy and consulates to prevent its people from approaching. And the journey is not simple at all. They often cross the border into China in the middle of the night, then travel 4,300 kilometers from China to Laos, and then cross the border into Thailand, with all kinds of means of transportation, such as trains, buses, boats, and even walking through the forest. Here, after surrendering to the Thai police, they will be sent to the South Korean embassy in Bangkok. In addition to the land route, there have been cases of North Koreans escaping through South Korea by water, using boats to cross the sea border between the two regions. Almost the entire northern border of North Korea runs along the rivers. On the left is the Yalu River, and the rest of the border with China and the entire border with Russia is also the source of the Yalu River. Especially in the rainy season, this river is a place where the water is deep and wide enough and the water flows fast. Plus, the cold river water makes it easy to cramp the muscles. In 1961, 245 bodies were found in the Yalu and Domen rivers in North Korea. And yet, the fugitives face another natural challenge, which is to cross the Gobi Desert, which spans parts of north-northwest China and southern Mongolia. First, you have to cross the sand plains in the dark, then walk along the fence. Of course, you need to pray not to clash with the Chinese border guards, because if you do, you will have nowhere to hide in the desert except bury your nose in the sand. Not to mention enduring the heat, running out of water, the temperature difference between day and night up to 35 degrees, easy to get heat shock. The next most dangerous is to cross the demilitarized zone with the electric fence mines that I have already mentioned in number 3. Suppose they can pass through this place. They have to cross the sea with an old wooden boat, like in the old days. You know, fishermen's dilapidated wooden ghost boats are often washed ashore by the waves, plus the bodies of many fishermen who died because there was no food and water washed up offshore. The Titanic is like a huge cemetery, where more than 1,500 people are permanently located at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean. "My life is okay" is probably the sentence that the families of defectors wonder about, and I also want to know their fate, when they get to where they want to go, is really pink and better than North Korea. For specifics, let's take a look at the following content. Life is far from the imagination of a defector in South Korea. Do you know that July 14th is the anniversary of North Korean defectors who escaped and found a new home? At this time, both South Koreans and North Koreans plan to celebrate with music, cuisine, and other symbols from both North and South Korean cultures. South Korea must be recognized as the top one destination in the hearts of people fleeing their homeland. In January 2024, the South Korean government announced that the number of defectors from North Korea into their country has nearly tripled compared to 2023. But it is not entirely rosy, because North Korea has an extremely large gap with South Korea, isolated on one side, diplomatic on the other, exporting all over the world, growing day by day. GDP per capita in 2022 will reach about 36,194 USD, while North Korea's is only 1,147, 32 times. The difference is too large. When they come to South Korea, the government will support 6,900 USD for them to find accommodation and apprenticeship. Authorities also subsidize employers who hire defectors. Many people live close to each other in 25-square-foot apartments in an inexpensive government-provided apartment complex. When they run out of support money, they have to find work to support themselves. The unemployment rate among defectors is twice as high as the South Korean average. Many people still speak in a North Korean accent that makes them afraid to speak up. According to a 2022 study by the Seoul Institute, nearly 90% of defectors in Seoul find it difficult to settle into a new place after 10 years of subsidies. Not to mention that North Koreans have little access to high tech such as the internet, computers, phones, and automation devices, so they don't know what to do, almost like a jungle man. In addition, North Korean defectors are twice as likely to commit suicide as the average rate in South Korea, which has one of the highest suicide rates in the world, with 3.7 out of every 100,000 people voluntarily going to see their ancestors. If Korea is like this, what will China do with defectors? Let's continue to explore. China's fierce rejection. An estimated 30,000 to 50,000 of the many North Koreans hiding in China have refugee legal status. These refugees are not usually considered members of the Korean community in China, and China's census does not take them into account. Some people who are not likely to come to South Korea have married people of Korean descent in China and settled there. They blend into the community but will be deported if found out by the authorities. Before 2009, more than 70% of North Korean women who escaped were victims of human trafficking, even sold for exorbitant 3,000 to 10,000 yuan. At the same time, they euthanize children of Chinese blood of defectors to protect the pure blood of North Korea, and force abortions if they become pregnant without being executed. Looking at this, I really feel terrible. It's not okay to go or stay. I just hope that North Korea will be open, strengthen the economy, so that people don't have to flee their own country. Thank you for watching the Top 10 Mysteries video. Now, goodbye and see you in the next videos. Don't forget to give Top 10 Mystery 1 like and 1 subscribe.
With